Welcome to the October 5th Select Board meeting. Please note that in accordance with the emergency orders announced by Governor Charlie Baker to protect public health during COVID-19 outbreak, this Select Board meeting will not be open to the public for physical attendance, and the Select Board members are meeting online via Zoom web conference. The meeting is being live streamed and cable broadcast by the Easton Community Access Television, which is Comcast 98 and Verizon 23, and on ECAT's website at www.eastoncat.org. If you're watching at home and you have a question or a comment, you can email mblanchard@easton.ma.us or pose your question on the Q&A feature of the Zoom portal. Please remember to include your name and street address for our minutes. At this time, I'd like to ask each Select Board member to state their name to ensure that we have a quorum.
Craig Barger.
Charles King.
Tom, you are on mute.
Hear me?
Yeah.
Hear you now.
Excellent. Tom Broussard.
And Dottie Fulginiti. So thank you. The first order of business is a timed item for a notice of hearing. Craig, do you have the hearing announcement?
Yes, I do.
Would you mind reading that?
Of course. The Select Board of Easton, as licensing authorities, will hold a public hearing via remote participation using the Zoom platform on Monday, October 5th, 2020 at 5 p.m. to consider and act upon an application for the transfer of a Class 2 license from Gabriel Volpe, doing business as Silhouette Motors of Easton, Incorporated, to Rony Alhajj, doing business as Lux Car Sales, 38 Foundry Street, Easton, Mass., to engage in the principal business of buying or selling secondhand motor vehicles or parts thereof, pursuant to the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 140, with a plan on file at the Select Board's office.
Terrific. So everyone, we have in our packet the transfer of auto dealer Class 2 license from Gabriel Volpe, doing business as Silhouette Motors of Easton, to Rony Alhajj, doing business as Lux Car Sales at 38 Foundry Street. This is subject to a maximum of 14 vehicles on display and the applicant providing the proper surety bond as required by state law. The applicant, I believe, is in the waiting room. Michael?
Hi, Dottie. Yes, I'll move him over now, and he could unmute and put on his video. Just for the board's benefit, this is a transfer. As you may know, the town of Easton is limited to 25 Class 2 licenses, so there are no new licenses available. So this would be an existing license, essentially turning in theirs and a license being issued to Lux Car Sales in its place. I'm going to ask him to unmute. Ronnie, if you can hear us, you're on mute.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh,
Yes, good evening.
Hello, welcome to our Select Board meeting. I want to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit about your business so the public knows where you are, what are you going to be doing, and it's a good chance to introduce yourself.
Yes, right now I'm in West Bridgewater. I have a license for 14 cars, and I've been doing it for almost 3 years now. And now I'm gonna be moving, if everything is okay, to the new location in Easton, and I'm gonna be doing the same thing what I was doing right now.
Okay, terrific. Do any of the board members have any questions?
Oh, can you tell us a little bit about the kind of automobiles and that you're be selling at your site?
Yes, most of the cars I'm getting like between like 10,000 to 20,000 in that range cars, and nothing like too fancy or in between, whatever the market is right now, and that seems like it's really good right now.
And you're doing repairs there as well?
I don't do repair at that location or at the other location because we don't have a repair facility, but I do have repair. I do the repair in Brockton, where we have the other shop in West 1100 West Chestnut Street, called Westside Motor Work. That's where I do all the repairs.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Yes, you're welcome.
Ronnie, it's Charles King. What kind of cars are they, used or new?
Yes, sir. They used.
And what kind of personnel do you anticipate having on site? Employees?
I'm doing it just by myself right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have employees. I just do it all by myself. I'm the salesman. I'll buy the cars. I sell the cars.
Okay.
Questions, Tom? Nothing for Tom. We can't hear you again, so you'll have to turn up your speaker.
Hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Yep.
Good. I'm back.
Great.
I had no questions, but thank you very much.
Okay. If somebody would like to make a motion to transfer the auto dealer class 2 license from Gabriel Volpe, doing business as Silhouette Motors of Easton, to Rony Alhajj, doing business as Lux Car Sales, 38 Foundry Street, Easton, Mass, subject to a maximum of 14 vehicles on display, in the applicant providing the proper surety bond as required by state law.
So moved, Craig Barger.
Second, Tom Broussard.
Craig and Tom, that will be a roll call vote.
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Fulginiti, yes. Ronnie, congratulations, and thank you for choosing Easton to have your business.
Oh, thank you so much, and you have a great day.
Great.
Good
Same
luck.
thing, Ronnie.
Great
Thank you.
success.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Next.
Oop, I think we just lost Dottie for a moment.
I'm gonna move her back. She bounced over. Here she comes.
Yep. And now you're muted, Dottie.
The internet, it's a wonderful thing. Good thing I was on mute, so you couldn't hear what I was really saying.
We were afraid that Tom had given you his mic.
So the next item is the common victualler license application for Kinfolk's award-winning barbecue at 25 Robert Drive. Do you want to give us a little information on that, Michael?
Just to take a step back, we skipped over New York Pizza, number 3.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry about that. I said that while I was on mute. No. Cape Cod Pizza LLC, doing business as Cape Cod Cafe, to Hamada Incorporated, doing business as New York Pizza, 690 Depot Street, Easton.
So I'll move the applicant over now, but this will be a transfer of a common vic license. The current location of Cape Cod Cafe has closed or is closing, and the applicant is looking to open up a similar operation under the name of New York Pizza. And I'll just ask him to unmute.
Hello?
Mr. John, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, I'm Dottie Fulginiti. I'm chair of the select board, and thank you for being here with us tonight. I just would like to give you this opportunity to tell us a little bit about this transfer and tell us about your business, keeping in mind that the public is watching. So let us know the types of food that you're offering and anything that you'd like people to know about your new business.
My name is Khaled Adam. I've graduated from Suffolk University about 30 years ago, about 20 years ago, basically. I've been in the food business since I graduated from college. The type of food I'll be serving is Italian style pizza. It's a little bit different than what Cape Cod Cafe has been serving. It's a pan pizza. I do have a business right now in the city of Leominster, and I'm looking to expand into a city of Easton.
Great, that's terrific. Does anyone on the board have any questions? Craig?
I'm sorry, can you tell us a little bit about your staffing patterns and who's going to be running your show here in Easton?
I'll be in Easton. I do have also a couple people, and I'm actually keeping a couple of Cape Cod Cafe employees on board as well.
Excellent. You're keeping your store in Leominster.
I do have a manager out there, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Adam, are you actually going into the location where Cape Cod Cafe formerly was?
Yes, sir.
Yep, great.
Doc, any questions?
I do not.
Okay. So if we'd like to have the following contingencies for approval. The applicant must obtain all necessary permits from the Board of Health and Inspectional Services. The applicant must satisfy pre-opening inspections with the Board of Health and Inspectional Services, and the applicant must obtain a business certificate with the town clerk's office. So if somebody would like to make a motion to transfer the common victualler license from Cape Cod Easton LLC doing business as Cape Cod Cafe to Hamada Incorporated doing business as New York Pizza, 690 Depot Street, with the contingencies that we just mentioned.
So moved.
Second, Broussard.
That's Barger, Broussard, and roll call vote, Craig.
Barger, yes?
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Fulginiti, yes. So congratulations, Mr. Adam. Welcome to Easton, and thank you for choosing to open your business here. We're very excited to see your success.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Adam. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Okay, now for Kinfolks Award-winning barbecue, another common victualler license application. This is great. So we have an application for this license for Kinfolks. Michael, do you have any background on this?
I do. So while I talk, if the applicant is here, he was scheduled to be here. There are some names that it could be under if he wants to use the raise hand feature. So I know that it is him. That would be helpful. But in the meantime, this would be a brand new restaurant that will be going into 25 Robert Drive, which is in the larger Big Y Plaza. He currently has a location in Taunton, which I understand gets rave reviews. And this has been reviewed by town departments. And again, there are similar conditions to the last one, looking to make sure the applicant gets all the necessary permits from the Board of Health and Inspectional Services and satisfies pre-opening inspections with the Board of Health and Inspectional Services.
Terrific. I know that they've been looking at that site for a long time, since before COVID. So it's nice to see that they hung in there through this tough time for restaurants, and that they're going to be opening, and in large part because of the sewer in that area. So attracting investment. This is what we've been looking for in that area. So excited that they are choosing Easton to open their restaurant. If somebody would like to make a motion to accept the common victualler's license application contingent on the items that were mentioned earlier.
So moved. Barger.
Second, Broussard.
Barger, Broussard, and then a roll call.
Barger, yes?
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Fulginiti, yes. Congratulations to Kinfolks.
Hear good things about it from a source who shall remain nameless.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The next item is the setting of the Select Board 2021 license fees.
So Dottie, I can speak to that. Attached in your packet, the Select Board will find a copy of your 2020 license fees. Each October, you vote to set the following year's fees. This year, we brought the existing fees to the board now for you to potentially consider, given the significant economic hardship being faced by many or all of the businesses in Easton due to COVID-19, that you may wish to consider a temporary reduced fee schedule. So we brought it forward for your discussion. I do have some numbers just to help aid in your discussion. Last year, the Select Board's office took in $81,500 in licensing fees. Just for discussion purposes, just to do the math for you, if you looked at for an example, a 20% reduction in fees, that would bring a $16,000 reduction in fees for 2021.
We absorb that in the budget, Michael?
So we believe we can. Given that this is a difficult budget year, overall, the overall scheme of things, this is certainly a small amount of money. you know, in our overall budget, but we feel that we could absorb this and it would make an impact for our businesses in this difficult time. So we think it would be worthwhile for you to consider.
And just to add to that, you know, Wendy and I took a look at that, and we set our fiscal 21 budget assuming pretty significant material drops in our revenue categories, including local categories. So some of that obviously was trying to hedge against unanticipated shortfalls. Voting to reduce your fees would be a kind of deliberate reduction to one revenue source. But to Mike's point, in the scheme of our local receipts account, this would be relatively minor. You could do 10%. We figured, you know, given the substantial portion of this year that these licensees, because of the types of businesses you license, particularly restaurants, were outright functionally closed in the worst of the spring. They've had massive revenue losses. So that's kind of where the concept came from. But the short answer is yes, we anticipate, because we set our revenue expectations for this fiscal year so low, that this would not be a substantial hardship for the town's revenue.
So for a restaurant, an all alcohol license is $2,500. So it would be a reduction of $500, right? Did I do my math right?
You did?
Yes.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, Tom.
So I think that's, I would imagine that that would be a big relief. You know, I mean, it's not something that's going to make or break the town budget, but I think it would help a small restaurant that's trying to weather this storm, so to speak. And I think the winter is going to be a lot harder for our restaurants. We worked very hard with the reopening task force to try to do everything that we could to support the restaurants opening, make it easy, simple, and not a cost burden to do that. The Economic Development Council has been seeking information and grants to support our small businesses also, and posting that on the Economic Development's Facebook page, talking about it in meetings. So although the Economic Development Council hasn't had this come before them yet, I think that from everything that we've talked about, this is really a great idea, and I'm totally in support of it. Craig, if you want to go next.
Yeah, I'm absolutely in agreement with it. I think it's a great message to the community about our concern and support for small businesses in town, particularly restaurants. And so I'm supportive of a 20% reduction for next year.
Point of clarification, would this be across all fees?
No, this was just for the ones you control.
I apologize. I meant all fees from the schedule listed, including one-day liquor license, restaurant.
Yeah, so it's up to you. I would recommend against changing one-day licenses or any fee set by statute. I don't know, Mike, if you've had time to dig in and double check. Typically, state law sets a cap on what fees are. It usually doesn't set a minimum. So if you're going to consider something, I would say you pick a percentage and apply that to annual. Only to the annual fees, only for 2021.
And so of the fees that we do collect on an annual basis, is what percentage is the restaurant, the two restaurant items, all and wine and malt, of our annual fees?
So what I have available here is the alcohol licenses, so it does include the package stores as well. But that made up almost 72,000 of the 81.5 last year. So it's a good portion.
The overwhelming majority of it is from those alcohol class licenses, which for restaurants in particular are probably the ones that took the most significant economic hit, although I didn't do a scientific review.
No, I understand. I appreciate it. And, you know, I'm conflicted. I believe that the gesture is understandable and appropriate and in effect helping these restaurants that are impacted. I personally would prefer, under the logic we're considering, to keep it to restaurants only. I'm not sure package stores have been as damaged in this economy as perhaps restaurants have been, given the economic impact, and if that shall be the rationale or one of the rationales we lean on. And I just bring us back to the structural revenue deficit that we as a town still face. And I know that we struggle with that. I believe that although this year's state indications regarding our town financial support have given us some measure of, I guess, feeling better than where we had expected we might be. But I'm still concerned about the long-term ramifications of the pandemic and the impact on our revenue stream. I'm heartened by the fact that we just had come before us 2 new restaurant groups that one is brand new to our community and taking up space that previously was empty at the Big Y Plaza. But the other is replacing a pizza shop that closed, which is heartening, the fact that it wouldn't go dark essentially, or if it does, it's a short period of time. So I would be amenable to the restaurants only being impacted for a single year. I would be looking to recommend as soon as possible to reinstate that revenue stream for our community. I think it is certainly accommodated or accommodable this year, but I am concerned about the long-term structural revenue deficits and the future economic impact of the pandemic to our revenue streams from the state as well.
Chuck?
I think it's a worthwhile message to send to the community, and I would be willing to go with the restaurants and the package stores as well.
Just to clarify, I was not recommending the package stores. I was only recommending the restaurants.
Correct.
I'm not sure where everybody else was on the list.
So I understand what you're saying, Tom, and I value that perspective. I'm looking at the list in front of me. So for the restaurants, package stores, farmer series pouring permit, auctioneer and junk dealer, car licenses, vehicles for hire, taxis, common victualler, jukebox and electronic game, entertainment for places, fortune teller, lodging house, billiards table, underground fuel storage, liquor filing fee, constable application. Are those all considered what we would be looking at, Michael?
I think, our suggestion was to just look at the annual fees. So it would be a lot of those that you just listed through would not include the fees. So the liquor filing fee, other filing fees. It would include the annual, in theory, the annual entertainment, but not the 1 day. So all the annual reoccurring fees is what I think we were bringing forward, not the 1 day or one-time fees.
So the 1 day and one-time fees would be like entertainment on a Sunday or annual entertainment, or which ones are 1 day, Michael?
So if you're looking at the fee schedule at the top,
Yeah.
the 1 day all alcohol and 1 day wine and malt. Just as you scroll down, you have the 1 day entertainment.
So the annual entertainment is $50.
Correct.
So I would bunch that in with the restaurants, because if they have entertainment, I feel like that's also part of the same thing. How hard would it be to carve out the package stores? How complicated is this going to be to change some fees and not others?
Not at all. Not at all. Very easily. So if you were going to go for just targeted towards restaurants, as that's been the industry that's been disproportionately hit, that would be, restaurant all alcohol, restaurant wine and malt, the common vics, entertainment, and the farmer pouring, and that would cover your bases. So that's certainly an option. So you don't need to enumerate those in a motion. If that's what the board wishes to do, you could just say that you're voting to reduce annual licenses applicable to restaurants by whatever percent you're comfortable with. We can handle revising the fee schedule administratively by tomorrow.
What about the club fee? Is that part of a restaurant?
Sorry, yeah, but clubs you could look at as sort of a restaurant. That's an on-premise consumption, which would have been hit very hard.
I think I would agree with Tom on that. I think that the intention on this is really to support the restaurants and clubs, and that's where we get, the more that we can help them, they support us back with meals tax, and that's really important to our growth and our tax base. I think you're right, Tom. And I'm willing to also agree to vote for a 20% license reduction applicable to restaurants and clubs. So I don't know if Craig or Chuck want to change your mind on that.
Well, I was looking at it, Dottie, in terms of the potential reduction in income, and it's not a lot of money. So I didn't really think that it would hurt us that badly. However, I concur that the ones that have been impacted the most are the restaurants and and I think that point is well taken. So I think I can go with a limited reduction for those that have been impacted by the COVID pandemic: restaurants, clubs, pouring permits, entertainment. I think I can be convinced that makes the most sense.
I would support that as well.
What about you, Chuck?
Yeah, there's something about the on-premise aspect of restaurants, and as you mentioned, the meals taxes aspect. Do the package stores have any meals tax? I know they have. If they sell the lottery, that gives them.
No.
No. Okay, so yeah, with the on-premises aspect and the meals tax element of it, I'm fine with going along with what we're talking about. Not having the package stores included in that.
Tom, would you like to make a motion?
Certainly, I would make a motion that we reduce by 20% the fees associated with the annual fees associated with restaurants, both all types of alcohol and wine and malt, club licensing, the farmer series pouring permit, and I think we chose the entertainment fees as well, both Sunday, annual, and 1 day. Again, all to be reduced by 20%.
Did you want the common vic in there as well? That's for all restaurants.
I apologize. Yes, the common victualler would also apply, I think, to the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish. Thank you, Connor.
And a second?
I'll be happy to second that.
So that's Broussard, Barger, and a roll call vote. Craig?
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
Yes.
Janetti, yes. Thank you, everyone. All right, next is acceptance of resignation for Stefan Cautino from the Conservation Commission. Stefan has tendered his resignation effective September 11th, 2020. We'll have to take a roll call vote to accept that. I'd just like to say that Stefan has done a tremendous job on the Conservation Commission. I really appreciated his leadership on that group. He was the chair for a couple of years. And just as a person, I really enjoyed working with him, and we'll miss him terribly. So if somebody would like to make a motion to accept his resignation, a second, and then we'll do a roll call vote.
So moved, Barger.
Second, Broussard.
That's Barger, Broussard, and then a roll call. Craig?
Reluctantly, Barger, yes.
I echo all of your sentiments. Dottie, couldn't say more about Stefan. My appreciation for his efforts. Broussard, yes.
King, yes, and I have to say that it was one of the nicest resignation letters I've ever seen, crediting his compatriots.
And Fulginiti, Cautino, and so yes, that's unanimous that we accept his resignation with regret. And next, contract award, POL 2021-01, Easton Police Department for a 2020 Dodge Durango utility pickup.
Sure. So for the select board's edification in your packet, there is a memo from Police Chief Gary Sullivan and a copy of the contract. This is the delayed purchase that was originally in the fiscal year 2020 capital plan for the police department's ongoing repair and replacement of their fleet. This was voted to be approved at the annual town meeting on June 22nd. The funding is available in the budget for that purpose. It's off of a state bid list with a company that we frequently purchase these vehicles from, and I recommend award.
Any questions? So if somebody would like to make the motion to award the contract to MHQ 401 Elm Street in Marlborough, Mass. In the amount of $52,001.45.
Barger, yes. I mean, Barger, I make the motion.
I'll second that, Broussard.
So that's Barger, Broussard. Now, Craig.
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Fulginiti, yes. Next is a letter to Verizon FiOS regarding the addition of one high definition PEG access channel per cable license agreement.
Sure. So as the board may recall, it feels like 5 lifetimes ago before coronavirus, but last fall you voted a couple of lengthy contract agreements with Verizon and Comcast for provision of cable in the community. One of the terms of that Verizon agreement, which runs through 2024, was that after the execution of the license and upon Verizon's receipt of a letter from the board requesting it formally, they would provide to Verizon FiOS customers in Easton a high def channel for ECAT. So right now, ECAT is broadcast on 3 different channels for community, government, and educational. All of them are in standard def 480i, I think, which is a very kind of passe technology, no fault of ECAT whatsoever. Thus, they just haven't had the provision by the cable company of an HD stream. So that was part of the terms we negotiated. So this letter in your packet is that formal request. It was prepared largely by Stu Schoenfeld, the chair of the Cable Advisory Committee, who was kind enough to remind me that we needed to do this. And I would ask that the board, unless you have any questions or concerns with the form of the letter, vote to authorize Dottie as chair to sign it on behalf of the town, and I will be happy to get it to Verizon.
I think this is exciting to get a public access high def station. So I know that, our friends at ECAT are probably really excited about it too.
I believe they are. Yeah, this will be, and this mirrors Comcast will also have an HD channel provided as well.
So we just need to take a vote to support this. So Craig, do you want to make the motion?
So moved.
Second by Broussard.
So that's Barger, Broussard, and a roll call vote.
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Janetti, yes. Terrific. Next is the standing COVID update.
Sure, Dottie, I'm happy to go into this. However, I notice we have more than a dozen attendees. I think everyone's here for CPA articles. If you recall, we can take it out of order, or I could go through the COVID update quickly and we'll get to the warrant.
Sure, why don't we do the warrant next and we'll do the COVID update after that.
Sure. So in your packet, you will see a draft of the November 30th special town meeting warrant. Just a matter of housekeeping. Although it's not required according to town council, I would just ask if the board start this item off by just taking a ministerial vote to clarify that the fall town meeting will be Monday, November 30th at 7 p.m. at the Ames Sports Complex at Stonehill College once again. So last we spoke, and when the board voted to open the warrant, I think at the end of August, we left the exact date and location to be determined, because the logistical challenges presented by COVID obviously have not gone away. The importance of distancing and masking and all that has clearly not gone away. And so our team spent a couple weeks working, looking at what our space options are. And Stonehill was once again generous enough to offer the sports complex November 30th as after Thanksgiving, which is a little bit later than a normal special town meeting, but has the benefit that this will be after students go home for the semester. The campus will be mostly empty, as it was in June when we were able to successfully hold a town meeting that was appropriate and safe for voters. So that's what I would recommend we do again. The alternatives are logistically incredibly difficult, and doing things like trying to tempt fate with an outdoor town meeting in New England in November is not appealing for me, and I would trust for our voters. So If the board has any questions about the logistics, I'm happy to answer them. If not, and you're satisfied with that recommendation, I would ask that you take a vote stating that the special town meeting will be November 30th, 7 p.m. at the Ames Sports Complex.
Would somebody like to make a motion?
Happy to make the motion that the town meeting will be November 30th at the Ames Sports Complex at Stonehill College
At 7 p.m.
at 7 p.m.
Matt Broussard.
So that's Barger, Broussard.
Barger, yes.
With great appreciation again to all the effort and certainly to Stonehill. Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Fulginiti.
Great, thank you. So for the public's benefit, this special town meeting will actually have a few more warrant articles than is traditional because the annual town meeting in June was called under special legislation allowing for a reduced quorum, which we, of course, in hindsight now know was not necessary, but we're unsure at that time. And we could only take up financial articles in the spring. So we do have some housekeeping that we typically take care of in May that will be on this docket. And so I will walk you through those articles and ask for various inclusions and recommendations if you would be so willing. So the first is the acceptance, Article 1, acceptance of annual reports. Again, this traditionally would have happened in spring and was delayed due to COVID. Town meeting just needs to vote to accept our annual reports. And once they do, we'll publish that document. So unless the board has any questions or concerns, I would ask that you take a motion to include and recommend Article 1.
Include and recommend Article 1, Barger.
Second, Broussard.
Roll call vote.
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Fulginiti, yes.
Great, thank you. Article 2 is a transfer to stabilization fund. We don't have the exact dollar amounts yet. Finance director and the finance department are working to close our books and get a estimate on free cash for fiscal 20. The good news is that there will be free cash. We will close the books in the black and meet our budget for last year, which is considering the year we've all had measured good news. So we don't have a specific dollar amount or proposal here. A lot could change depending on the calendar of the Commonwealth. Unfortunately, a lot of different dates and calendars have been put out by the state over the summer. There was a commitment from budget leaders that state aid would not end up being cut in fiscal 21. Other budget leaders in the state house indicated that they would try to get a budget put forward in October and then walked that back last week. So we may not know exactly what this dollar amount is until we're at town meeting. Which is not how I prefer to do things, but with this level of uncertainty, it's unavoidable sometimes. So I would just ask the board, if you're willing, take a vote to include Article 2.
I heard last night, Connor, that they're aiming for sometime in November for the budget. So I would make a motion that we include Article number 2.
At 25%, Connor?
Chuck, just to make sure I understand, you're asking regarding whether or not we would try to stick to our guidelines of transferring 25% of free cash.
Right, that's what it says on here at the moment, under explanation.
Okay, you're correct. That's template language because for years we have done that, which is part of our conscious policy to rebuild reserves. The explanation will be edited once we actually know what those numbers are. So thank you for pointing that out. Hopefully we're in a condition where that's possible, but I don't know yet. But the language, the very brief one sentence article would not change.
Still applies. I'll second that motion by Mr. Barger.
And a roll call vote. Craig?
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Fulginiti, yes.
Great, thank you. Article 3 is another housekeeping article that we typically have at a town meeting. No bills at this time, but I would ask the board to take a motion to include Article 3.
Motion to include Article 3.
Second, Broussard.
Roger Broussard, and roll call vote.
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Nettie, yes.
Thank you. Article 7 is an article submitted by the Municipal Building Committee. Unlike most of our boards and committees in town, typically there are two ways that boards and committees in local government, at least in Easton, frequently come to exist. Either they are contemplated and expressly empowered by state law, like a planning board, or they are appointed at behest of a charge that the select board votes to adopt. Municipal Building Committee charge was actually adopted by town meeting. So any changes to it need to be voted on by town meeting. The last time that charge was touched was in 1998. And it stipulated that the Municipal Building Committee would be a building committee on any government building projects valued over $50,000. The Municipal Building Committee is requesting that the select board recommend and a town meeting vote to amend that to clarify to serve as a building committee for all school and general government building projects valued at over $500,000 unless otherwise dictated by state or federal law. And it's important for two reasons. One is the dollar amount, 50,000 from the 90s, is just completely antiquated. And with the cost of public construction, that means you would need to have the committee running very mundane and typical repairs that departments of public works exist to take care of. The second piece that's really important is the unless otherwise dictated by state or federal law. So there are processes that exist now, such as the school planning committee under the Massachusetts School Building Authority's regulations for school projects that call for the establishment of a building committee under certain with certain qualifications under state law. And so this amendment the MBC is asking for would clean up the Municipal Building Committee's charge so that if there is a building committee contemplated in state or federal law, that would take precedent over the municipal one. That does not mean that those would not be local folks. The school planning committee is largely staffed by members of the MBC. It just cleans it up. It's housekeeping. There's a relatively detailed explanation that the MBC was polite enough to put in there for us. But I recommend that the board take a vote to include and recommend.
So now that we're past the housekeeping type of questions, and these are a little bit more robust, I'll ask the board if they have any comments or questions on this. And then I'd ask if you are an attendee and you do have questions on these, after each one, I'm just going to give a couple of seconds. So please put your question in the Q&A and we'll read them. Make sure to include your name and your address, your street, so that we can include it for the minutes. There may not be a lot on these, but on this particular one, but for the next ones coming up, since we do have a good number of people in attendance today, I just want to make sure that you know the process to ask us questions. So does anyone on the board have any questions about the Municipal Building Committee charge? Craig, I can't hear you.
It sounded pretty clear to me.
Okay.
I don't have any questions.
Tom?
I do not have any questions.
Chuck?
Okay.
Okay, I don't have any questions either. And let me see. I don't see anything in the Q&A. So at this point, I would take a motion to include and recommend.
Motion to include and recommend Article 7.
Second, Broussard.
So that's Barger, Broussard, and a roll call vote.
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Fulginiti, yes. Article 8.
Sure. Article 8 would be the amendment of the local historic district bylaw. I believe we have community planner Wayne Beitler here is going to be moved into the panel by Mike to speak to this article on behalf of the Historical Commission.
Wayne, we can't hear you.
Problem I keep
There
having
you
with
go.
this computer. Yeah?
Yeah, we got you.
Got you, Wayne. We got you.
Thank you. Yeah, the speakers seem to just default to mute. Yeah, so I don't know if we could share my screen here on my home computer. I have some slides that might help make it a little clearer.
Sure. Do you have a screen share button on the bottom that you can see?
There we go. Yep.
Okay.
And let me pick one. There it is. Great. Awesome. Thank you. Briefly, as folks know, we have a local historic district established in 2010, expanded in 2013 in downtown North Easton. About 2 years ago, several residents in a stretch of historically significant properties along Foundry and Morse approached the Historical Commission to discuss greater protections for some of these historic properties. We worked with some of the residents, with the Historical Commission members and former members, including Ed Hands and staff from the Massachusetts Historical Commission, to put together what's called a draft study report on the properties. Had a public hearing at the beginning of 2020. 3 property owners of the 8 historically significant houses asked that they not be included in this proposed local historic district. So the final study report does not include those properties. As it stands, it's 5 houses and the town-owned Pine Grove Cemetery. There's a map on the screen of these 5 parcels. And can I actually get this to, there we go. And this sort of lays out briefly the timeline. As folks are probably familiar, the local historic district reviews exterior changes to buildings visible from a public right of way. This is roof siding, significant additions, constructions, new building. It does not include minor things like paint color or minor landscaping, and has nothing to do with interiors. And there we go. These are the 6 proposed properties. Pine Grove Cemetery, 243 Foundry Street, 247 Foundry Street, 261 Foundry Street, 263 Foundry Street, and 285 Foundry Street. And then we have the final study report is on the town website. If folks want to go and take a look, you go to the town website, Boards and Committees tab, Historical Commission tab, and then it's the Hayward Pool Local Historic District section down near the bottom. And this is the final study report. I've got both the draft study report from earlier in the year and this final study report up there as well. And there we go. So if folks have questions, comments, happy to chat further.
For perspective, Wayne, that's roughly across from the technical school, right?
Correct. Yes. Yes. It's that stretch of houses associated with the Hayward and Pool families. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Craig?
No, I don't have any questions. I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Tom?
I don't have any questions, but just an observation that I appreciate the importance of Easton's historical aspects, and certainly appreciate the continued efforts to identify them and to support their preservation. So I appreciate all that were involved.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in on a lot of those meetings when we were looking at the first historic district for the downtown. And I don't know if I'm just making this up in my head or if I am recalling. I thought that they had to be contiguous. I didn't think you could skip properties. Am I wrong?
Correct. You're wrong. You can
like that way.
you can skip properties. There's a provision that if you have the majority of property owners supportive, you can include properties that do not necessarily want to be included, but that has not been the Easton Historical Commission's practice to date. And I did circle back with Massachusetts Historical Commission to confirm that a district configured like this would be acceptable to MHC, and they said it was the Easton Historical Commission's, privilege and purview to move forward if we felt that this was the best way to protect some of these houses.
I understand why a house what the conditions are on a house, but I'm surprised about the cemetery. What does that mean in terms of the cemetery?
In practical terms, very little. I think it would mostly apply to significant removals of, say, the wall or the decorative iron gate entrance, or sort of maintenance buildings, that sort of thing. It would not really oversee, to my knowledge, to my understanding, new gravestones, unless they were a very large, like, a new mausoleum or something that might be something that the commission might want to chat with people about. But, being a town-owned cemetery, which, how can I put this, does not have a lot of recent residents, it's probably less of an issue. I think the town is looking at, or has looked at, possibly not expanding it per se, but being able to provide burial spaces of last resort for folks who don't have other options.
Okay, terrific. One person had put their name in the chat but didn't post a question. So if you have a question, please type that in now.
Dottie, I believe that may be one of the restaurant applicants from earlier. If so, I believe it's from Kinfolks, and that license was approved, Sylvester.
Hi, this is Michael Blanchard. I just actually got off the phone with Sylvester. He understands, he's all set. He apologized for being late.
Oh, no problem. All right, terrific. Well, if nobody has any other questions, if someone would like to make a motion to include and recommend Article 8.
So moved.
Second, Broussard.
That's Roger Broussard, and a roll call, Craig?
Roger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Nettie, yes. Terrific. Thank you, Wayne.
Oh, thank you very much. Really
Thank you,
appreciate
Wayne.
it.
Have a good night.
Thanks, you as well.
All right, next is Article 9, Amendment of Meetings, Annual Town Election Bylaw.
Sure, thank you, Dottie. So I wanted to put this article on the draft warrant for the board to start discussing and considering. If we have learned anything from COVID this past 7 months, 8 months, is that we need to be prepared for all sorts of contingency plans. And looking ahead to the spring, while I am happy to be optimistic about vaccine timelines and things of that nature, it seems like it is a pretty real possibility, and it is likely that coronavirus is still going to be a significant public health concern in the spring of next year. The current code of the town of Easton stipulates that the annual town election is the third Tuesday in April. And there's no flexibility. It's a one-sentence provision to your bylaw. Just states that's it. Third Tuesday in April is the annual town election. If we are looking looking at the prospect of continued space, physical distance requirements and things of that nature, attempting to hold an election in a school would be difficult. It's possible. The clerk's office will work with the schools for the November 3rd presidential election, but it certainly presents significant logistical challenges. And so I thought I would put this on the table to discuss, where this would add one sentence to that bylaw if the board and town meeting is willing, which would allow for the select board to move the date of the annual town election from that third Tuesday to any day of the week, provided it's in the second half of April. So any point between April 15th and 30th, that vote would have to be at a public hearing. You would need to post a hearing notice online and deliberate about it at a public meeting and make the decision before the end of a preceding calendar year, so that voters have ample time to understand when that town election would be. And so the clerk's office would have ample time to have the appropriate warrants voted and signed by the select board so that the ballots can appropriately reflect the date, so that voter education literature can appropriately reflect the date. So I felt that this would be worth discussing, because if in the absence of such a provision like this, if we are faced with significant logistical challenges that would make a Tuesday election during session of school during COVID a problem, you would need to seek a court order against yourselves to move that date, which you had to do in March for the primary. So trying to think ahead here is the goal.
Greg, any comments?
No, this gives us the opportunity, I believe, Connor, to move it to a Saturday where school's not in session. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Or April vacation.
Right. Yes. Any number of opportunities where you can look at a little bit more kind of situational and circumstantial information about the coming year's calendar, rather than just saying, well, the bylaw says it's this day, so that's what day it is.
Yeah.
You could do a weekend, which the board has done for special elections, which we've seen did not seem to negatively impact turnout. I believe turnout was comparable to normal town elections, even though polls were open for less time. So that is an option. I spoke about this with the town clerk. We didn't want to get into specifics that it shall be this many hours on this day and shall be this many on another. I believe state law requires a minimum of 4 hours. I believe the board has had special elections with 4 or 6 hour days. But typically for the level of turnout you see in an annual town election, a 13-hour day is not certainly not necessary to accommodate that number of voters, even with COVID concerns. So this just gives you flexibility. You would need to, if you were going to pick a different day and time and location, you would need to publish that in that preceding December, again, for transparency purposes, and so everyone knows what the rules are.
Chuck, any comments?
I don't see the downside other than bucking tradition or something. That's not good enough reason for me. Yeah, we have to have that flexibility, in my opinion.
I agree. I think the more flexibility that we have no idea what we're in store for, sometimes day to day, month to month, and week to week. So keeping all our options open, I would be in support of that also. Craig, if you'd like to make a motion.
I'd like to move that Article 9 be included and recommended.
Second, Broussard.
Okay, Barger, Broussard, and roll call vote.
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
Yes.
Fulginiti, yes. All right,
Right.
Article 10, the Unionville Field Revitalization.
So I believe that we have Director of Planning and Economic Development, Stephanie Danielson here, as well as the Chair of the Community Preservation Act Committee, Jim Lee, who are going to get moved into the panel to speak to the next 3 articles with the board.
Hi, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's see.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, everybody. And I'm going to, Connor, can I share my screen?
I believe you can. You should have a green screen share button at the bottom, right above the task folders.
Hold on. And we have Jim Lee with us as well. I don't see that. There we go. Sorry, I do have it. Let me just get back in. Sorry, I have. And there we go. Sorry about that. So the first CPA article 10 is for funding for the Unionville Field Revitalization. Back in 2000. I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Now we can, yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
You dropped off for a second.
Okay, back in 2019 at annual town meeting, the town voted to approve funding of $38,000 to do a study and design and engineering for this project. And this project is, this article brings that project forward to fruition for actual construction. The plans were completed this past fall and actually way under the $38,000. I think it was $17,000 in total. And what this will do, as you can see from the screen, it's going to create 6 new pickleball courts. For those folks who aren't aware, pickleball is very popular in Easton, and it is a growing sport for particularly seniors across the country. It will also construct the associated fencing, access paths, and provide expanded parking. And the total request for this is $320,000.
Any questions, Craig?
This is on the site on 138.
Yes, where the Unionville field is. There's a softball field that's there, and the existing, you can see over here, we have the existing tennis courts, which is where one of the areas in town that the pickleball league is playing. And they'll continue to use those when they're not being used by tennis players. And you can see these are the new proposed courts. We're also proposing some new landscaping, some trees to provide a buffer and shade. The league has verbally committed to providing storage facility for the area so that they have a place to store their equipment when it's not being used. And the expanded parking area is in this area over here.
Stephanie, is there a way to make that bigger, the map?
No, this is the slide view.
All right, no problem.
So is it the existing baseball field that would be removed?
The baseball field would stay there.
The baseball field is, it's a softball field. I misspoke if I said baseball. It's a softball field and it will remain.
Got it. Okay.
But it really isn't being used. It would be used for something like T-ball.
Yep. Understood.
That's right by the UNIONVILLE, right?
That's right. The UNIONVILLE is right here.
Right.
Just, Dottie, if I could add, there is a copy of these slides in the select board's packet, so you could zoom in your packet, I believe, for a closer look. And Stephanie, just for the board.
Let me see if I can, there we go.
There you go. This has been, this went through the process with CPA, as did all these articles, and carried a affirmative recommendation from the CPA this past spring, and these were delayed due to COVID, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
I should have mentioned that. And this was supported by the Recreation Commission as well.
And by a lot of community support as well, too.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? I don't see anything in the Q&A from the public.
Great idea.
Okay, Craig, do you want to make a motion?
So I move that we include and recommend Article 10 CPA funding for Unionville Field revitalization, a maximum $320,000.
I second that, Broussard.
That's Barger, Broussard. Craig, the roll call vote.
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
Yes.
And Fulginiti, yes. I'm glad to see that the site plan is comprehensive rather than just doing the pickleball courts, that the whole area is going to be revitalized. So, all right, next is Article 11 for CPA funding for the Wheaton Farm Barn.
So this is for rehabilitation of the barn. It has been, there are structural repairs that need to be done to ensure that the building envelope is preserved and the structure is preserved into the future. It is a circa 1850 barn. It's currently being used under the license agreement with Langwater Farm for their farming operation. This rehabilitation includes a roof replacement and some structural repairs that need to be made. The request is for $190,000. And the board may recall back, I think it was in 2014 now, and Jim can speak up, that the Conservation Commission sought $14,000 for repairs based on some cost estimates that we received. But when we went out to bid, we found that under the procurement laws, we had to have design plans which had been completed, and identified the costs as being higher than what we had anticipated.
So what are they going to be using that barn for? I feel like they talked about that at the last presentation. They were going to be actually using the barn if it was repaired, correct?
Jim, can you talk to that?
That's correct. They are using the barn, but of course it's of somewhat limited use. The farmer has actually created new doors for the front of the barn, but the structure is not sufficiently strong for them to install them yet. So there needs to be a strengthening of the actual physical structure before they can put in. Also, they're taking some of the flooring on the second floor, the upper level, that was used back when NRT was using this for summer camp. And that structure is in the way of access by the modern farm equipment that would be normally put in the barn. So it was a temporary fix for the use of campers, and it needs to be taken out as well. So the barn will be much more utilized by the tenant farmer. Also, the structure is protected. This is a barn that quite a number of residents of the town have fond memories of their summer camp days at the NRT camp. We've had a lot of interest in this and a lot of attendees at our meetings.
And is there going to need to be more work done after this?
The work that would follow would be more cosmetic. We're interested right now in structure, and the cosmetic is not something that CPC would necessarily be involved with. We're hoping to find some volunteers. Again, procurement laws, there's some things in the way, but we'd like to see more community involvement in the aesthetics aspect of the barn. This is solely focused on structural integrity and protecting the envelope of the structure to maintain its historic presence.
I feel like I just saw something come through my email for historic preservation grants that are available. I'll look for that. Maybe that can help support some of the future aspects of it.
Excellent.
Anyone have any questions? Craig?
No questions. I think it's a very good project.
Tom?
I'm good as well. No questions.
And Chuck?
No questions.
I am happy to support it because there's a use for it. I believe in preserving historic structures to a certain point, but I appreciate the usefulness that there's going to be, that there'll be something done versus just spending all that money to keep a structure in place because it's visually appealing. And for Langwater, who's been a really good partner to the town and to our food pantry, using that property and being able to utilize the barn is what makes me feel that I can support that. So I appreciate that presentation. And Craig, if you'd like to make a motion to include and recommend Article.
Are there no comments from the audience?
Nope, no comments.
Okay.
From.
Okay. I move that we include Recommend Article 11, CPA funding for the Wheaton Farm barn with a request of $190,000.
Second that, Broussard.
Barger, Broussard, and a roll call vote, Craig.
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Fulginiti, yes. Next is Article 12 CPA funding for the town hall restoration.
Okay, this project, again, the board may recall that in, I think may recall, the CPC, this was not a town article, the CPC voted to allocate up to $25,000 in advance study for the restoration and rehabilitation of the town offices, which certain repairs and masonry work have been funded through the CPA in the past, and there's additional work that needs to be done. The intent is to complete this work to former well-maintained standards so that then the town can continue to maintain the building in the manner that they need to, so you don't have to go through this process again. So as you can see from the listing, and for folks that don't know, this was once the Wayside Estate. I believe it was Mary Frothingham who managed the household, and the building was donated to the town back in the 1960s. And the work includes restoration of the windows and doors. The columns are in poor shape. Anyone who's been around them can see that they're rotting out at the bottom. Historic, and bringing it into a good state of repair. And this is a $1.45 million request.
Comments or questions, Craig?
No, I have no questions.
Bob?
Stephanie, the question, the answer might be obvious, but I think the question stands. I know we're focused truly on the exterior with this project. Could you just articulate why the interior wasn't also reviewed?
Again, and Jim, do you want to speak to that? I can answer, but I know you can as well.
I think the funding from this is from historical preservation funds, and the committee has for a long time decided to spend money only on preserving structure, not on internal use. This is true. We started, I guess, before I even joined the committee, working on Unity Close Church, and obviously that created some tension since the internal use is religious. We're focused on preserving the structure and the stained glass. The same thing with the hall, Oaks Ames Hall. We focused on preserving the structure and funds that support utilization of that facility have had to be sourced other ways. And so for the same reason, we're focused on preserving this structure. It's an important building that has a lot of use by the citizens of the town. But our call and our responsibility is for the historic aspect of that building. And that is a two-edged sword. Obviously, to maintain the integrity of the structure to historical standards is more costly. And so that's why CPA funds then, which are set aside for that specific purpose, are being used. This is not maintenance, it's not upkeep, it's protection of the structure.
I appreciate the explanation and letting the rest of our residents and our community members hear it as well. Thank you, Jim.
I think another good point to add to that is, as Jim's mentioning, it's about the exterior and ensuring the envelope of the building is preserved and can stand, bringing it into a condition that then can be maintained going forward. And there's less of that immediate need with the interior of the building.
I think I would agree with your terminology, immediate, but I also agree. I think there is still need, but I appreciate Jim's answer, and I think that articulates why this project is designed as it is and focusing on the exterior and the envelope and the structure. But I also know that the interior of the town hall also has some certainly significant historical perspective and is certainly put to great use for its residents. Thank you.
Chuck, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just a what if question, and I hope it's not too far off the wall, but let's say the town found another place for the town hall. Would that make any difference in our decision regarding this this output of quite a bit of money?
So, no, I mean, the short answer is no, because one of the things that comes along with this decision is a preservation restriction on the exterior of the building. So in theory, even if it were no longer being used internally as a town office, the exterior envelope could not change. Is that accurate, Stephanie and Jim?
Yes, that is the mechanism to protect it from any future conveyance of the property. It would be a preservation restriction.
So, and then secondary to that is, as far as a new home for the town offices, on the list, lengthy list of our building needs as a community, town offices are effectively at the bottom. They're not, that's not to say we don't have growing pains in our building, and it's not to stipulate that a 1912 mansion is the ideal space for a 21st century office. But as Public Works has quantified, as Municipal Building Committee has received reports on, we have significantly more operational needs for repair and replacement, frankly, of Public Works, police, fire structures before we would consider the town offices. So, but I do not think that would be a near-term concern. And in the strange, unlikely event that it became one, the exterior preservation would be deed restricted.
Thank you.
I'm curious about when you talk about accessibility and code compliance. I understand that you're looking at the exterior of the building, but if you make repairs or modifications to a structure that's more than 30% of the value, it triggers some other code compliance. Is the accessibility limited to just the front entrance, or is there other accessibility considerations inside the building?
I'll let Stephanie or Jim correct me if I'm wrong, but the interior of the building is not altered by this project. The town is accessible. We do have ADA compliant
Right.
doors and entryways and restroom facilities and elevators. So I believe that that covers it. Jim or Stephanie, I don't know, is there something I'm missing there?
No, the building is accessible and the meeting rooms are accessible to the public.
Yeah,
So I wouldn't think it would trigger.
Right, there may be individual offices, administrative offices, that is not the case due to how small they are, but I believe the public rooms are.
Yeah, and I also, I thought that's when you're doing more work, interior work. And major interior work, but I will check that with the building inspector as well.
Right, great. Before I want to take the vote for this, but also after that, I would just ask Stephanie, I probably should have asked this at the beginning before we started talking about the CPA funding, just for the people at home, if we could just do a review of what CPA funds can be used for. I know there's always a question every time we talk about this. Why are we going to spend all this money on these items when we have shortages in the schools or public services? So I just want to make sure that we let people at home just do a review of what CPA funds are. So let me just take the vote on this to not interrupt that train of thought, and then we'll get back to that. Craig, if you'd like to make a motion to include and recommend Article 12.
12, CPA funding for exterior restoration of Easton Town Hall, not to exceed $1.45 million.
Second, Broussard.
That's Barger, Broussard, and a roll call vote.
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Fulginiti, yes.
Okay, so a quick primer on what CPA is, Community Preservation Act. It was legislation that was passed at the state level. I believe it was 2000, Easton was an early adopter of CPA. And when a town votes to adopt the Community Preservation Act, what they're doing is saying, we're going to add a small surcharge to everyone's real estate taxes. That money gets set aside for use by the, for use as CPA funds. That money is also matched by the state. There is a portion of the county real estate actions or fees that goes towards the fund as well. And the projects that can be funded with CPA have to fall into one of three categories. They have to either be historic preservation or open space and recreation. And on the recreation side, that has to be acquisition of outdoor recreation land, land for outdoor recreation facilities, or the facilities that would be installed on outdoor recreation areas, and for community housing, which would be providing affordable housing within the community.
Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate that. All right. So Stephanie, thanks for being there tonight. And Jim, we appreciate you coming in. And we'll move on to our next item, which it will bring back that we skipped over before, is the standing COVID update. Connor?
Sure. Thank you, Dottie. And thank you, Stephanie and Jim, for joining us.
You're welcome.
So as is our tradition at this point, each meeting that you have, I just give an update to the board and the community on where Easton is at in our ongoing COVID planning. Starting first with a kind of recap of the relevant numbers for the United States and Massachusetts before drilling down locally. So the Eastern Emergency Management Agency continues to connect and meet a couple times a week to make sure that we are sharing information regarding regional, national, and local trends to try and stay on the ball as much as we can. So as of today, the United States is over 7.4 million cases. We're nearing 210,000 folks who have lost their lives. The moving 7-day average of new daily cases is about 43,000. That's ticked up slightly. I believe we dropped into the 30s for the 7-week average briefly a couple weeks ago, and that's picked up a little bit, although it's not as severe as it was over the summer in the 50s and 60s. The percent positive rate of tests being conducted in the United States right now is just over 5%, which is better than where it was earlier. This is from the COVID exit strategy. That is actually a data aggregating website that Governor Baker uses for the travel prohibitions in effect for Massachusetts residents. This is just basically a color-coded map that indicates the rate of COVID positive tests coming back in any given state. The Northeast was hit really, really hard really earlier this year in the spring, and thankfully have been trending generally in the right direction and have kept a decent control with some exceptions on the spread. And that's reflected in seeing a test positive rate, closer to 1, 2, or 3% compared to some of our other states in the United States that are not faring as well. So in Massachusetts, as of yesterday, there had been a cumulative 134,000, just under 135,000 cases of COVID in the state. We're at about 9,500 deaths of residents of this state. And the percent positive rate in the Commonwealth is at 1.1%. The chart here we always borrow from WBUR. That is the rolling 7-day average of new cases. You could very kind of clearly see the spring very pronounced there. And you could see as you move towards the right-hand bottom portion of that graph that cases are slowly ticking up. And so I think depending on where your Brady Bunch heads are floating, you should still be able to see the bottom right hand of this slide. So this is a detailed view of 7-day moving average of cases in Massachusetts from Johns Hopkins University. And as you can see in the area highlighted in red, which is the past couple of weeks, the average new case count in Massachusetts has begun to trend upward. The previous 4 days, October 1st through the 4th, all saw more than 600 cases being confirmed per day, more than 700 a couple of those days, which I believe is the most we've seen since May and June. Hopefully, that is more of a product of large amounts of testing being done by educational institutions like colleges, and is not indicative of a sustained trend, but it's obviously something that the state is keeping a close eye on, and health professionals around the Commonwealth are as well. We were at a point over the summer, while there was still significant restrictions in place in the Commonwealth, where we were seeing 200 or 300 cases a day. As some portions of the economy have been reopening under the governor's reopening plan, we've seen some additional spread. But the thing that this graph is meant to do, it's not meant to be alarmist or to scare anyone, but it should just serve as a good reminder that we need to continue to take COVID very seriously, and to take the steps that we know at this point help mitigate the spread, like wearing a mask, and having good hand hygiene, and having as much physical distance as you can in your day-to-day routines. The travel order I referenced from the governor is still in effect. It uses that COVID exit strategy data to inform which states are on that list, where if you do travel voluntarily to one of those states, you have to fill the Massachusetts travel form out on their website and quarantine or produce a negative result. The Baker administration last week announced some new information that effective today for low risk communities, and we'll get to the definition of low risk in a minute. They will be in step 2 of phase 3, which allows certain activities, indoor performance venues will be permitted to open with 50% occupancy with a max of 250 people. Outdoor performance venue capacity will increase to 50% with a max of 250. Certain arcades and indoor and outdoor recreational businesses will be permitted to open, and capacity will increase to 50%, and a couple of other changes. All that information is available at mass.gov/COVID-19. The governor also issued a revised gatherings order since the board's last meeting on September 29th. The limit for indoor gatherings, minus those exceptions that are otherwise noted for certain industry types, the limit for indoor gatherings remains at 25 people. Outdoor gatherings at private residences and backyards remains capped at 50. And outdoor gatherings at event venues and public space settings will be 100 in lower risk communities, what the governor is calling step 2 communities. I'm hoping no one is trying to take notes on that as I go, but all of that information is available on the Commonwealth's website. So I had mentioned lower risk communities, and so the governor's administration over in August rolled out a color-coded map of the Commonwealth and all 351 cities and states in it to indicate certain trends, specifically the daily incidence rate of COVID in a community per 100,000 residents, to kind of use as a proxy for the prevalence of coronavirus spreading within a community. Gray, which you'll see in the western portion of the state, means there have been fewer than 5 cases in the past 2 weeks. Green means that there have been fewer than 4 cases per 100,000 in the past 2 weeks. Yellow is 4 to 8 cases per 100,000, and red is greater than 8 cases per 100,000 per day in the past 2 weeks. So because Easton is obviously not a community of 100,000, we're depending on which census you're looking at, between 23 and 25,000. What that math works out to for us is that if we are having more than one case of COVID confirmed per day for a 2-week period, so if we break 14 cases in 2 weeks, we go into the yellow typically. So this is us. We are in yellow from last week. And I'll get to that in a moment. Cumulatively, based on last week's report, which is from Wednesday, we've had a total of 350 cases of coronavirus. Your last meeting 3 weeks ago, that was 331. We have not done a data review in the clerk's office solely on the account of the, frankly, lack of time due to all their efforts being focused on voting operations. But as of the end of July, we had 35 residents had lost their life to COVID-related deaths. I did point out at our last meeting that the scale of the cumulative graph was not accurate because we had switched from daily to weekly tracking. That has now been fixed, and now you see our cumulative graph resemble what you see in the Commonwealth. That the most growth occurred in the spring, and it grew quite slowly in the summer and is growing marginally but continually at this point. This is a new graph. It mirrors the graphs that you typically see for daily average case rates for the United States and Massachusetts. So what this graph does is it takes and visualizes the biweekly new cases that we've had in Easton. And on the left-hand portion, let me see, I can get a some kind of, at the risk of doing it wrong, I'm not going to try and put a marker up on the screen, but on the left-hand side of this, you can see a very high peak back in April and May when we neared almost 100 cases per week, per 2 weeks of growth. Thankfully, that has come down precipitously. And we are now, we have been below 25 cases per 2 weeks since June. So we basically took the now weekly dashboards that the DPH puts out, where they color code those communities, and we kind of reverse engineered those stats backwards in time to March using our own local health data to create this graph, which will be in all of our updates moving forward. So this is a kind of a drill down on the actual numbers driving that graph. So again, starting the week of August 12th, the DPH started their weekly municipal dashboard that shows your cumulative cases, your case growth in the past 2 weeks, what the actual incidence rate per 100,000 is, and where you're going, if your trends are going up or down, as well as your positive rates. So the most recent report is from last week. We had 17 cases in a 2-week window that bumped our average daily incidence rate up to 5.1 per 100,000. But again, community of 23,000 and change. We had 17 new cases in a 14-day period. That moves us into the yellow category. Our test positive rate is still quite low. As you'll recall, the United States is around 5%. Massachusetts as a whole is 1.1%. Easton is 0.38%. That's an uptick from last week. The last week we were at 0.21%. So our average daily rate of COVID and our test positive rate are both lower than what is the average in the Commonwealth. But we are obviously keeping an eye on it and keeping a close eye on these statistics. Earlier, I used the phrase low risk community. That's relevant to step 2 of phase 3. And what that means is a community that has not had 3 consecutive weeks in the red, so to speak. Easton has never bumped up into the red, but in order to be moved out of that terminology of a low risk community, you would need 3 consecutive weeks in the red, which again is more than 8 daily cases per 100,000. So in Easton, that would be close to 28 in a 2-week period. And thankfully, that is not where we've been since the spring. So again, as with the state graphs, the purpose of sharing this data is not to put people to sleep. It's not to alarm them, but to just continue to share the reality that cases are continuing to occur. At this point, it's still attributable just to general community spread. There's no particular cluster event that's driving it. This is just kind of organic spreading. It's a contagious disease, and you know, even with the preventative measures most folks are taking, it can still spread. So again, it's a really always a good reminder for people to wear their mask, keep their distance, limit unnecessary gatherings, and practice good hand hygiene to keep these cases manageable.
Connor, what's the difference back there? Back to that. What's the difference between the average daily incidence rate and the test positive rate? It sounds like the same thing.
The average daily incidence rate is how many cases of coronavirus are occurring per 100,000 people. The test positive rate is how many tests are coming back positive. So in the case of the first one, our population is fixed. In the case of the latter, with the test positive rate, the number of tests conducted per day varies. So what you generally, you want to test positive rates where they are now, especially below 1%, are a good thing. That means, you know, for every 100 coronavirus tests being administered, only one of those is coming back saying someone actually has the disease.
Okay, so yeah, so the incidence rate would just be someone getting the disease without having been tested, for example.
Well, we would know they have it by testing. So
right.
The incident rate is how many people are confirmed to have contracted coronavirus. Test positive rate is the number of tests being conducted that are coming back positive.
It's a function of testing, right? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So status of services, general services for town offices in Frothingham, we're still providing our services remotely. We do have in-person appointments available for folks if they can't have their needs met remotely. They can fill out an appointment request form and submit that to the appropriate department. That's available at easton.ma.us/COVID-19. A large focus of the town offices right now and for the next couple months is going to be elections administration. The town clerk's office is working around the clock towards the November 3rd presidential election. If you can believe it, by the next time you have a meeting, voting will already be underway. And that is because early voting begins on Saturday, October 17th. I thought that using the COVID update, because so much of this is kind of pandemic planning, was an appropriate place just to walk through what those options are for voters so that they can feel comfortable and safe voting and exercising their rights. The town clerk's office has been working with the Department of Health and Easton Emergency Management to plan for the three voting options that people have before them for the November 3rd presidential. And to do so in the safest possible manner for staff and voters. There are, as I said, three different options. People can vote by mail, they can vote early in person, or they can vote in person at the polls on election day. We also consolidated the voter information URL. It's much simpler now. It's just for any information to check the status of your ballots, your voter registration status, to look up the hours for early voting, really anything related to voting. If you are an Easton registered voter, just go to easton.ma.us/vote. That should give you all the information you could need.
Connor, I'd just like to add about the voting are you going to say it here? Never mind.
Oh no, this is a little text heavy, but if I missed it after these three slides, let me know. But so there's three choices for folks. The first is voting by mail. You have kind of a two-step process. You need to request and receive your ballot, and you need to return it. All registered voters in Massachusetts received a ballot application postcard from the Secretary of State, William Galvin, over the summer. For those who did not use that application to request a presidential election ballot at the time, so you could have checked, you know, the primary or all elections. If you only requested a primary ballot, you should have gotten by now a second ballot application postcard from the Secretary of State, which was mailed to those voters who did not select, yes, I want a presidential ballot earlier. That should have been mailed around September 14th by the Secretary of State's office. The first batch, and it's a question the clerk's office gets a lot. We understand there's a lot of attention on the election. We have poll workers assisting us, but there's only so much time in the day. So I'd ask people to be patient with callbacks and things like that. But one of the most common questions, when are the ballots going to be mailed? The first batch of ballots for the presidential election are going to be mailed out to voters who submitted their application before October 2nd. So if you submitted your request for the ballot before the 2nd of October, you will be in the batch of ballots that get mailed starting next week. That's when ballots are currently, that's when we anticipate to receive and begin mailing those ballots. We'd ask people to be patient. There's going to be thousands of ballots being mailed to voters. And you can track the status of your ballot if you go to trackmyballotma.com. So when you go to that website, that's a state website, and that shows the status of your ballot. If you submitted a request and it says pending, that means it's been received by your local elections office. Your application has been received. When it's been mailed to you, it will say mailed, and when you send it back and it's been received, it will say received. I wish there was a simpler way of covering all that. I haven't found one, but the long and short of it is if you've already submitted your postcard requesting your presidential ballot before October 2nd, the ballot should be mailed out to you, put in the mail by the clerk's office at some point next week. So please be patient, and they should get there once the Postal Service delivers them to you after that. So you have your ballot. You obviously want to fill that out and return it. You have a couple of options. One, you can return your ballot in the mail. What will be sent to you, the ballot will have everything you need to return it in the mail if you so choose. If you're going to do that, we recommend you do that as soon as possible. Don't sit on it and wait. In order for those ballots to be counted, if you want your vote to count, a ballot sent back in the mail would need to be postmarked by November 3rd, and it would need to be received by the clerk's office by 5 o'clock November 6th. So if you're getting your ballot in the mail and you intend to send it back through the mail, that's perfectly okay. We recommend you do it quickly rather than sitting on the ballot and waiting. If you want to wait, if you're undecided and you have your ballot, you can also drop that mail ballot in the secure ballot drop box. We have a ballot drop box right at the front doors of the town offices, secured, and it is hard to miss. It's very Americana, a US flag design that says ballot drop-off box. You can drop your ballots off, a mail ballot off there at any time until 8 o'clock at night, the day of the election. Again, if your ballot is done, I would drop it off sooner rather than waiting until 7:50 the day of the election. But you have that option. Just a quick note, you cannot return a vote by mail ballot to the polls. So if you, for some reason, have a vote by mail ballot and you fill it out and you have it sealed in the envelope following the instructions, if you go to Oliver Ames High School to turn it in, the clerk's office cannot take it there. It has to be accepted at the ballot drop box so that it can be scanned in and accounted for properly at the town offices. So please do not bring a mail ballot with you to the polls. Dottie, anything on vote by mail?
Nope, I think that's it. I would just mention that this is all on the website. It's also on the Town Crier, the weekly email newsletter. So people, just another pitch to get people to sign up for the Town Crier by going to the town's website, and on the front page you'll see the link to sign up for the weekly email.
Great, thank you. And again, for all these voting options, easton.ma.us/vote has a lot of really good detailed information. Second option for folks is voting early in person. Registered voters can vote early in person at the town offices starting on Saturday, October 17th, and that will run through Friday, October 30th. Monday through Fridays, those early voting hours are the traditional town office hours. So 8:30 a.m. open every day, closed at 7:30 in the evening on Monday, 4:30 Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 12:30 on Friday. And every Saturday and Sunday during that 2-week period, the town offices will be open from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So it gives a tremendous amount of opportunity to folks if they want to vote early for health reasons or whatever their reasons and not be at the polls. That is an option. October 17th through October 30th to protect voters' health and staff's health. We will conduct this the same way that the clerk's office did for the September primary, which is that only 5 voters will be allowed in the building at a time. There will be health staff or CERT team members helping out the election staff to do health screenings, and other town services are not available. There's going to be a tightly controlled area where you come in, go to the calling Corona room to vote, and exit through a side door so that folks aren't just wandering around the building. Please wear a mask. Bring a pen if you don't want to use one provided to you, and maintain your social distance. Occasionally, voters may be asked to show ID. For example, if you have an inactive census, you may need to show some kind of identification, whether a license or a utility bill that shows your name and address matching to your voter registration. So although it's not always required, it's certainly not a bad idea to bring one with you just in case. Again, easton.ma.us/vote. And then finally, go ahead.
I'm sorry, this is Chuck. I just wanted to assure everyone, including myself, assure me it's the case. One does not, if one comes in on October 17th or up till October 30th, you do not have to give any reason, such as medical reason or any other reason. You're treated just as if you were coming in on November 3rd. Is that correct?
Correct. And if I gave that another impression, I apologize. Yeah, there's this early voting. You don't need a qualifying reason, because I feel like it is a good reason. That's all you need. Right. Same with vote by mail. Traditionally, absentee voting, there's certain standards that I'm not going to try and recite because I will certainly get them wrong. But vote by mail is without, you don't need a qualifying reason. You just need to ask. So if folks want to vote early, that's your right. No explanation or anything like that needed.
Thank you.
And then finally, option 3 of 3, which is the closest to a traditional voting experience, although you'll have all of the COVID accoutrements, is voting in person at the polls on election day, which is Tuesday, November 3rd. Registered voters can vote at the polls Tuesday, November 3rd from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Oliver Ames High School, which is 100 Wilthorpe Street, Easton. Again, that was run for the primary, September 1st. It went very well. Clerk's office worked with schools, health staff, public works, the community was great. I think we could do it again. You know, if that is the way you wish to exercise your right to vote, that's great. Please wear a mask, bring a pen, maintain social distance. And again, although it's not always required, there may be certain instances where having an ID may be helpful if you have an inactive census or something along those lines. So vote easton.ma.us/vote. And there is the Know Before You Go guide up there that we publish every year, but now includes, of course, a lot of COVID-centered information about the measures being taken for cleaning and keeping people safe so that they can exercise their right to participate. Any questions from the board on the electoral activities?
Well done, very comprehensive.
Yeah, no, really good job.
Credit to Danielle for sure and her staff. Other municipal services, public health and public safety, Board of Health and Department of Community Health and Community Services and the Easton Public Schools jointly released a public handbook for the school district to help inform folks of what kind of thought processes are in place for COVID planning in the schools. They're calling it a COVID playbook. That's available on the Easton School website. Superintendent Cabral and Health Director Kennedy put that together, and I think it's a quality document that helps people have a little bit more certainty during such a strange time. Health and community services in the public schools have routine and recurring daily contact every day just to maintain constant and open communication. And as I've noted before, EMA has a municipal cache for PPE prepared. Public Works, Public Safety are fully operational. And that's what I have on the COVID. front for now. If the board has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Craig?
Oh, I think that was very well done, Connor.
Bob?
None at this time. Thank you.
Chuck?
I'm good.
I'd just like to add, I think the collaboration between the town government side and the school side and the Board of Health has been working very well. But to layer in, Connor and I also had a call last week or 2 weeks ago, my time frame is a little skewed, with Stonehill, with the president, Father Denning, and his staff, to talk about the relationship between the town and the school and what the school is doing and their protocols. And they reported very favorably on the interaction with our town staff. It's really important. That's such, that campus is a really big part of our community. And it's important to us that they're, also taking all the precautions and taking it very seriously. So it was a great conversation. I just am really pleased at the town-gown relationship. It's very strong, and that's really helpful in times like this, or in times of any kind of a weather crisis or snowstorm or things that we wouldn't anticipate. So I want to thank all of our department heads and you, Connor, and your staff for working so hard to value and keep up that relationship.
Sure, thank you. And that's a good note. That I agree that time feels difficult to comprehend sometimes, but yeah, Stonehills seems to be doing a really good job with really tight protocols, taking all of this with all the seriousness that it deserves. They've been a great partner.
Okay. What I'd like to do is skip to the minutes and then go back to town administrator notes and select board notes to round things out. So if anyone has had the opportunity to look at the minutes of August 24th, the regular minutes, and would like to make a motion to accept those.
Moved, Barger.
Second, Broussard.
Barger, Broussard, and a roll call vote. Craig?
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Fulginiti, yes. Next are executive session minutes for acceptance only for August 24th. So it will be a vote to accept, but not to release.
So moved, Barger.
Second, Broussard.
So that's Barger, Broussard with a roll call. Craig?
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Fulginiti, yes. Town administrator notes.
I have none. I was going to just let people know about early voting, but I decided I would just put that into the COVID planning. So.
Okay. Select board notes.
I do not have any.
I just want to go through and pick out a couple of things from the town crier that I thought were important. There seems to be a lot of community questions still about the power aggregation, and just want to let people know to go to the website. Under the planning and community development page, there is an aggregation page. So the people should have gotten things in the mail this week, and if you are on the town crier, you can look for it there, or you can look for on the website, and it has everything that you needed to know about that aggregation. You can, if you still have questions, email the select board. Just to be clear, although many of us are on social media and take cursory glances at it, none of us monitor social media. So if you ask a question to the town's Facebook page, you probably or may not get a response that way, or it won't be the quickest way. Email the select board, selectboard@easton.ma.us. The other thing that I thought was really important in there is the US Census. It's super important for people to fill out that census. You can do it online. That's how we know what kind of funding our town is going to get. So we are doing a pretty good job at that, but we need to have every single person in our community counted. So make sure that you do that. And if the census people come to your door, you can also do it that way. The temporary grant assistance for income qualified Easton renters that the Affordable Housing Trust has put together. If there are people that are still struggling to pay their rent and they're qualified, take a look at that. That would be on the website and in the town crier as well. And then finally, the most asked question that we usually get is, when is bulky item pickup? So if you're a waste management customer through the town, The week of October 5th is the next free bulk item pickup for waste management. You can go onto the website and see what types of items that you can put out for that day. So again, these are just some of the highlights that are out of the town crier. And with that, if nobody else has any comments, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Barger.
Second, Broussard.
Roger Broussard, and a roll call vote.
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Fulginiti, yes. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight, and for those watching on TV.
Bye, everybody.
See you next time.
Have a good night.
Thank you.